Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be another Pixlr tutorial. In this one, I'm going to show you how to create stencils. So a quick bit of background. My students and I are doing a unit in abstract art and abstraction. And a lot of artists, whether they're doing abstract art or something else, um, graffiti, anything like that, want to use stencils. And stencils is just to make sure that the paint goes in some areas and doesn't go in other areas. But the cool thing is that with stencils, you can make any shape you want. You can make a straight edge, which I'll show today, but you can also make some interesting shapes as well, which I'll try to demonstrate as well. So I'm going to start over here, click on Create New, and I'm just going to go ahead and choose this one here, Square HD. So it's a square, and I'm going to make sure that there is no background. Click on Create. Okay, and first thing I'm going to do is, and I apologize, I am just using my trackpad on my laptop, so the paint that I put down here is not going to look so great. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down some paint. So I'll do B for brush, and just get some paint here, and I'll just go ahead and get some pigment down on the canvas. Okay, so I've got some paint laid down there. So now I want to make my stencil layer. So what you're going to do is you're going to come over here to layers, and you're going to click to add an empty layer. And I'm going to go ahead and just rename this. Okay, so you want to choose a color that isn't on your canvas. I'm just going to go ahead and choose white so it's easy for everyone to see. Honestly, it can be any color. The color doesn't matter at all. Then you're going to come over here and you're going to click on the Shapes tool. Now, you don't have to use shapes, but I'm going to use shapes just to demonstrate the easiest kind of stencils. So this is going to mimic the kinds of stencils that you might buy in a art store that you do for art projects or engineering or architecture. So you've got a whole bunch of different shapes here. I'm just going to stick with a rectangle. And these options here don't really matter so much. I'm going to leave the stroke at 5, and I'm going to leave the fill turned on. So it's going to use these two colors over here. So you'll see a white stroke, and then you'll see kind of this grayish color fill. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag out a rectangle. So imagine this as a ruler. So there we go. So now I can take the Arrange tool, and I can, of course, move it around anywhere I want. I can scale it. And if I click and drag on this dot, I can rotate. So I'm going to go ahead and I want to put a vertical line right here. So now I'm going to lay down some new paint using that stencil. So I'm going to add a new empty layer. And what I want to do is I'm going to come back here to my stencil layer, select it, and then I'm going to come up here to the Select menu, and I'm going to choose Select Pixels. And what it does is it selects all the pixels that are currently on the layer that I have selected, right there. So if I leave it like this, right now the entire shape is selected. So now what I can do is if I come up here to my brand new empty layer, okay, and I'm going to change the paint color so you can see, and I'll add in a blue. I'm going to select my brush tool, and if I paint, you'll notice that if I paint outside the shape, I get nothing, and that's because this is selected. So if I paint over here, you'll see that the only part that gets painted on is inside the shape, and that's because it's selected like that. So I can do this kind of uneven shape to look like a brush stroke. But the cool thing is that the paint is only going on my brand new empty layer because that's what I have selected, but it's using the selection based on the stencil. So now when I think I'm done with it, the way you tell Pixlr you're done is you come up here to select, you choose deselect, and then I'm going to go ahead and hide the stencil layer, and you're just left with this little perfectly clean straight edge, but now I have this nice shape here that I can of course move around and do whatever I want with it. Okay, I'm going to show you that again. I'm going to bring my stencil back, This time I'm going to go ahead and I'll give it a little rotation. I'm going to make a brand new empty layer. I'm going to select my stencil layer, select pixels, but this time instead of painting on the inside of the shape, I want to paint on the outside. So the way you do that is you go back up to the select menu and you choose invert selection, and so now we're selecting everything but the shape. Once you have your selection, now you go select your empty layer that you want to paint on, choose your color. This time I'll choose kind of I'll go with kind of an orange gold color. Actually, let's go with kind of a magenta there. So you can see it. Select my brush tool, and now when I go ahead and I paint, you'll see that it's only going on the outside of that shape there. You get a nice clean edge, but I can go ahead and do this there. When I'm done painting, select, deselect, or you can also press Control D. I'm going to go ahead and hide the stencil, and you can see that I have a nice clean edge, and I've got this kind of natural painted shape right there, and I've got that there. So that's working there. So this works for anything, and if you think about that for a little bit, it's really, really, really cool. You don't have to just stop at rectangles like I have here, which again mimics a ruler. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how I get some shapes that mimic real-world stencils. Okay, so again, I'm going to make a new stencil. It's going to start with an empty layer. I'll go ahead and I'll rename it. You don't have to rename it. I'm just doing this to make it clear. And again, you can go with a shape tool, or you can go ahead and freehand it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with circles. And again, I'm going to change the color to white. You don't have to change the color to white. I'm just doing that so you can see. And I want a perfectly round circle, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click and drag out, and it makes my perfect circle there. Okay, so I could just make this the stencil right here, but I want to make this a little bit more complex. So I'm going to come over here to the layer, and I'm going to go ahead and choose duplicate. So now I've duplicated the layer, and I'm going to go ahead and move it off. And I want to make a stencil that has multiple circles. So I'm going to go ahead and come back here, and I'm going to merge this layer down. So now those two circles are joined into one. You can see that there. And I'm going to go back, and I'm going to duplicate those two. And so now I have another set of two for a total of 4. There we go. And I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to merge them down. So now they're joined together. And then I'm going to duplicate it again. And I'm going to go ahead and bring it down. So you can do this as many times as you want, and you can really make any shape you want. And this is where it gets really cool. I could just stop here, and I could just go ahead and maybe rotate this and have a vertical stencil like that. And so that could work right there. I could also make this more complex just by, again, duplicating it. And this is where, if you think about all the possibilities, you can just really have a fantastic time doing this. So now I could go ahead and I could do that. Again, I'm just going to repeat the process. Duplicate the layer, scale it a little bit, and I can make this more complex kind of stencil. So I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to go ahead and merge these together. So I'm going to merge down, and I'm going to merge down again. You have to be real careful that you're merging the correct layers. Okay, so now I have 2 stencils. And so now I can go ahead and I'm going to make a brand new paint layer, just the same way as I did before. I'm going to select the stencil that I want. I'm going to make a selection based on that stencil. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose invert selection. I'm going to make sure I select my layer, B for brush, choose a color, and if I paint, you can see that I'm painting everywhere but those circles. Okay, and of course I can change the color. I can do a stripe just going right down the middle. Okay, deselect, hide the stencils, and you can see what I've got. I've got this really great sort of cool cutout thing, and I can do all kinds of effects and textures and things like that. The final thing I'll say is that, again, you don't have to use shapes. You can just do some hand-drawn stuff. So right now, I could just go ahead and do a hand-drawn stencil. So I made a brand new empty layer, and I could go ahead and I could do some sort of crosshatch thing going on here. Let's see. Not sure why it's not showing up. There we go. Sorry, I had to pause my recording there. Something was going wrong. So I could do this hand-drawn shape. And again, I could just duplicate the layer if I wanted to get the exact same stroke. I could do some, cross hatching here. And again, I'm drawing with the trackpad here, so it's really painful. And there we go. That could be my stencil right there. So what I want to do is I want to click on select pixels. It selects all the pixels perfectly. Then for my paint, I'd want to add a new empty layer. Change the color. I think I'm running out of colors here. If that's, go back to my brush tool. And I can go ahead and I can draw. And you can see right now I'm drawing only inside the selection, but I can go up to the selection menu, choose invert selection, and I'm selecting everything but. And now I can paint outside the selection. And so again, you can get some interesting color combination effects here. Deselect, hide the stencil, and there we are. And of course, because it's a layer, I can move it around anywhere I want. Okay, I hope this helps you out. It's a really simple technique once you get used to it, and because you can make your own stencils, it's absolutely super incredibly powerful and creative. All right, thank you very much. I will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.